Imagine you're drifting off to sleep in a creaky log cabin deep in the Tennessee wilderness. The year is 1817, and the only sounds are the crackle of a dying fire and the wind whispering through the dense cedar forests outside. Suddenly, a sharp rap echoes against the wooden walls, knock, 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 like knuckles on bare pine, but no one's at the door. The knocks grow louder, faster, circling the house, as if something invisible is pacing the perimeter. Then, from inside the room, a woman's voice hisses your name, low and venomous, promising pain for sins you didn't even know you committed. You bolt upright, heart pounding, only to see your covers yanked away by unseen hands, your hair pulled hard enough to bring tears. This isn't a dream. This is the Bell Witch, the malevolent spirit that tormented one American family for years, scratching, slapping, and speaking prophecies of death in a voice that chilled the soul. And it all started with a simple farmer named John Bell, whose quiet life on the Red River would become the stuff of America's most infamous haunting. To really feel the grip of this terror, we have to plant ourselves in the early 19th century frontier of Robertson County, Tennessee, a wild, untamed land where the Cumberland River carved through rolling hills, blanketed in oak and hickory, and settlements like Adams were little more than clusters of log homes, cornfields and dirt paths, trod by moccasins and boots alike. This was the era of Andrew Jackson's presidency looming on the horizon, when the War of 1812 was still fresh in memory, and families like the Bells were pushing westward, clearing land with axes and hope. John Bell, born in North Carolina in 1750, had migrated here around 1804 with his wife Lucy and their growing brood. He was a respected elder in the local Baptist church, a farmer who raised tobacco, cotton and livestock on 300 acres of rich soil. Their home was a sturdy double-pen log cabin, 2 rooms separated by an open dog trot, with a loft for the children, hand-hewn furniture, and a massive stone fireplace that served as kitchen, hearth and gathering place. Quilts hung on walls for insulation, pewter plates gleamed on shelves, and outside, a smokehouse, barn and slave quarters dotted the property, because yes, the Bells owned enslaved people, a grim reality of Southern life that would later tie into the witch's venomous accusations. The trouble began innocently enough in the summer of 1817. John Bell, then 67, was out in his cornfield one evening, the sun dipping low and painting the sky in oranges and purples, when he spotted a strange animal in the rows. A creature with the body of a dog, but the head of a rabbit, staring at him with unnerving intelligence before vanishing into the brush. He fired his musket, but it was gone. That night, the knocks started. At first, faint scratchings on the walls like rats in the attic, but the Bells had no rats. Daughter Betsy, just 12 years old with long braids and a curious spirit, heard whispers in her room, gibberish at first, then clearer, quoting Bible verses she'd learned in Sunday school but twisted into mockery. "Why do you pray to a God who lets sinners prosper?" the voice would sneer, mimicking the cadence of the preacher, but with a woman's shrill edge. John dismissed it as wind or imagination, but Lucy, a devout woman in her calico dress and apron, grew uneasy. She was the heart of the home, baking cornbread in a Dutch oven over the fire, tending to the younger children. There were 9 in all, from oldest son, John Jr., to little Joel. The family gathered for evening prayers, kneeling on the puncheon floor, but the entity interrupted, slapping hands away from clasped fingers or yanking chairs out from under them. One night, as they sang a hymn, stones pelted the roof like hail, though the sky was clear. John grabbed his rifle and stepped outside, lantern swinging, only to feel an invisible force shove him backward, the door slamming shut behind him. By fall, the spirit had a name, or rather, it gave itself several. It called itself Kate, claiming to be the witch of a disturbed grave, or the vengeful soul of a neighbor John had wronged in a land deal years prior. Folklore in these parts was thick with tales of haints and boo-hags, passed down from Scottish-Irish settlers and enslaved Africans alike. Superstition ran deep. People wore asafoetida bags around their necks to ward off evil, and hex signs were carved into barns. But Kate was different. She spoke fluently, quoting Shakespeare one moment, odd for a frontier ghost, and cursing in guttural tones the next. She knew secrets, accusing John of cheating on a loan, revealing Lucy's private fears about childbirth, even describing distant events like a battle in New Orleans as if she'd been there. The physical attacks escalated. Betsy, now the primary target, awoke to find her cheeks stinging from slaps delivered by no visible hand. Her hair was pulled so violently that clumps came out, leaving bald patches she hid under bonnets. "Old Jack Bell, you'll suffer for your greed," Kate would chant, her voice emanating from under the bed or the chimney. John began experiencing seizures, his tongue swelling until he couldn't speak, his face contorting in pain that no doctor could diagnose. Local physician Dr. Hobson, riding in on horseback with his leather satchel of laudanum and bleeding tools, examined him and declared it nerves, but privately confided to neighbors that something unnatural was at play. Word spread through the holler like wildfire. Neighbors came calling, skeptical at first, but many left converted. James Johnston, a prominent farmer and friend, spent the night in 1818 and heard the voice himself, clear as day, reciting his own youthful indiscretions. "I know what you did with that miller's daughter in '92, it taunted, reducing the burly man to tears. He spread the gospel of the witch far and wide, drawing crowds. The Bell's cabin became a spectacle. Visitors brought Bibles, silver crosses, and even a conjurer from Nashville who tried to bind the spirit with incantations, only to flee when Kate laughed and rattled his chains. Betsy, blossoming into a beautiful teenager with suitors lining up, found her courtship with Joshua Gardner sabotaged at every turn. Joshua, a strapping young schoolteacher in waistcoat and cravat, would visit on Sundays after church, the two walking the flower-lined path to the spring house. But Kate intervened, pinching Betsy until she bruised, whispering in Joshua's ear that he was unworthy, even appearing as a spectral bird to peck at his hat. "Betsy Bell will never marry that fool," the witch vowed. And indeed, the engagement broke under the strain, leaving Betsy heartbroken and reclusive. John's health deteriorated rapidly. By 1820 he could barely walk, his legs dragging as if weighted. Kate poisoned his food, or so it seemed, causing violent illness after meals. On December 19, 1820, John Jr. found his father in bed, unresponsive, a strange vial of black liquid on the hearth. The family dog lapped a drop and died instantly. When tested on a cat, the same. Kate gloated, "I gave old Jack a big dose last night and he won't recover." John Bell died the next morning, his face frozen in agony. At the funeral, held in the yard under a somber grey sky, with mourners in black homespun and the preacher intoning from psalms, Kate sang ribald songs from the treetops, her voice carrying over the casket. "Row me over the tide, row me over to hell's side." But death didn't end the torment. Kate turned her fury on the living, promising to return in 7 years. The family scattered, some to Illinois, others staying to tend the farm. Andrew Jackson himself, the hero of New Orleans and future president, heard the tales and rode to investigate in 1821 with a entourage of soldiers and a witch hunter armed with a silver bullet. They arrived at the old Bell place, now weathered and overgrown with kudzu. That night, as they camped, their wagons stuck fast in the mud despite clear ground. Kate's voice boomed, "I'll show you witchery!" Horses bolted, men were slapped senseless, and Jackson reportedly declared, "I'd rather fight the British again than tangle with this tormentor." They left at dawn, tails between legs. True to her word, Kate returned in 1828, weaker but still vicious, focusing on John Jr., now married and farming nearby. She dictated a family history through knocks and whispers, revealing buried treasures and lost relatives. The cultural ripple was immense. In an America grappling with revivalist religion, the Second Great Awakening sweeping tents and camp meetings, the Bell Witch became a cautionary tale of sin and retribution. Pamphlets circulated like Martin Ingram's 1894 authenticated history of the Bell Witch, blending fact with embellishment. Skeptics pointed to ventriloquism by Betsy or a family member, or perhaps poltergeist activity tied to adolescent stress. Believers saw divine judgment on slavery. Kate often railed against the Bell's ownership of people, naming enslaved individuals and their plights. The site today is a cave on the old property where echoes still play tricks and reenactments draw tourists. But back then, in those candlelit nights with the howl of wolves and the scent of wood smoke, the Bell Witch was real enough to break a family, kill a man, and etch vengeance into American folklore forever.